So the last thing I expected to be doing on my recent holiday to sunny beach Bulgaria was looking at ancient churches and dowsing. But the ancient town of Nessebar came calling, and I spent 2 afternoons wandering through this small, walled city, marvelling at the atmosphere and marvelling at the archaeology. Nessebar is situated on a rocky peninsula on the Black Sea. It's more than 3,000 years old, originally a Thracian settlement, and at the beginning of the 6th century BC, the city became a Greek colony. The city remains mostly date from the Hellenistic period, but much of it is also Byzantine, and there are many, many churches, Byzantine churches, well preserved on this little isthmus. The contrast with the very tacky, sunny beach across the bay, essentially Skegness on steroids, couldn't be bigger. And for me, the biggest regret was not bringing my dowsing rods. However, I've recently started to hear lines and nodes, and I can tell you that the biggest sound came from this church, St. John the Baptist. But all of these little churches seem to be associated with earth energies, lines, and perhaps nodes. St. John the Baptist Church is just so energetic, I couldn't believe it, and I really regret it not having those rods with me. I actually paid the fee to go inside, and I stood in awe, listening to the buzz of the energies that I could hear emanating at this location. The church is ancient, quite well preserved, and some of the wall artwork can still be seen. I spent quite some time inside this church meditating before wandering off to see the rest of the town.
The energies in that place, off scale, dizzy.
Now here's the thing. As I was wandering around, looking at all of these wonderfully preserved and sometimes archaeological remains of Byzantine churches, it struck me, isn't this what a Slavic settlement like Mikulčice would have looked like? Mikulčice, you may recall, is a site that I've visited many times and mapped a lot of lines through. For what is quite a small walled settlement on the Austrian-Czech border, it has over 12 different types of church, and each church seemed to be aligned with energy lines, and some of them situated on nodes. So for me, as I walked around this beautiful town, looking at these beautiful remains of churches, I was suddenly in awe. Perhaps in the Byzantine era, and after all, the origins of Slavic Christianity were from the Byzantine brothers, the saints Cyril and Methodius. Maybe what I was seeing was what Mikulčice once originally looked like. And here were two Byzantine Christian towns where the churches were very definitely situated on energy lines and nodes. And that's the sort of pattern that you just can't ignore. It's not coincidence, it must mean it's deliberate. On Nessebar, even the modern church was buzzing with earth energies. Unfortunately, I wasn't allowed to film inside. But I can tell you, inside of this modern church, it was absolutely exquisite, with wall art and paraphernalia of this sort of Eastern Christianity origin. And the energies were off scale. It was then and there that I decided that I must go back to Bulgaria. I must go back to Sunny Beach. But this time, I'm going to stay in Nessebar. And my modus operandi will be to map the entire town from an Earth energies point of view. Intriguingly, when I sat with a map and extended the Templar and pagan lines that we've been mapping here in the Czech Republic, I realized that it is entirely theoretically possible that the pagan line, which originates just north of Hull and passes through the Czech Republic, could in fact also be one of the Type 4 lines that very definitely passes through Nessebar. Interesting. And makes me want to go back so very badly, this time with my dowsing rods. As I wandered the streets aimlessly, the cobbled streets, in this wonderful atmosphere, I kept coming across church after church after church. Some ruined like this, and others standing almost complete. This one in particular had an earth energy center in front of the altar that really struck me with its power.
Once again, I can hear the buzzing sound standing here in front of where the altar would have been. Not as strong as in that St. John the Baptist, but still it's here. I'm going to have to come back here and bring my rods and map the entire town. It's a challenge, but I'm going to do it.
For me, my 2 afternoons in the old town of Nessebar were the highlight of my 1-week holiday in Bulgaria. From a tourist's point of view, it's far more sophisticated than the tacky sunny beach, which reminds me of Skegness on steroids once again, and with its archaeological and historic significance, as well as the earth energies. It's somewhere that I think you could spend a week, if you were me, quite happily, without any issue. There were some other things that I missed that first day, and so I went back for a second tour. And then I found these additional churches on the other side of the island, and also a reconstructed amphitheatre that is still used apparently today. I also took some time to sit and look out over the Black Sea, resting in the energies, and the energies were so strong on this little isthmus, so strong as to be almost unbelievable. It really is quite a special place, and it really does beg for further investigation. Here is the amphitheatre, as you can see. You'll find the town also contains lots of street stores selling handbags and other tourist paraphernalia, but of a much better quality than you will find on Sunny Beach. The whole place is very beautiful, very well preserved, and not overrun completely with drunken tourists. It's accessible from Sunny Beach using this little train ride that I used to take the weight off my feet and enjoy the sunshine going back, before a couple of days later flying home back to Brno, thinking about the little town of Nessebar and how it seemed to remind me of Slavic towns just like it of 1,000 years ago. If you enjoyed this video, please do like, share, and do subscribe for more like it. Thank you.